If you close your eyes and you hear the word clown, what do you see? Some of you might see this, some of you might see that, but most of you will see something like this. We are afraid of clowns, we see them as killers, we see them as supernatural beings, we see them as everything except what a clown is supposed to be. Funny. So what happened? What did clowns change about themselves throughout the years to go from that was very funny to if I keep laughing at his jokes, I hope he doesn't kill me and my family? The answer is very simple. It's nothing. A clown's job is to make you laugh, but the dark side of them was always there. That is the duality of clowns, and like poetry, it's been rhyming throughout the decades. It's been there even before clowns were clowns. Let's time travel back to the 1800s, to the clown that defined what it meant to be a clown. Let's say hello. Let's say goodbye, because we're time traveling back even further back to the medieval ages, where they weren't necessarily clowns, but they were their predecessors, the jesters. Jesters are not clowns. They're very similar, but they're not clowns. Even though both their jobs is to entertain and get laughter, jesters will mock and joke by the audience, while clowns will primarily mock themselves to get a laugh. It's still important we learn about the jesters though, because whatever happened back then set the so-called standard moving forward, whether it was intentional or not. Being a jester wasn't all sunshine and daisies like people thought it was. There were more to them than meets the eye. Like I said previously, they would make a mockery out of their audience, so that meant they would make fun of the guards, they would make fun of the citizens of the town, and most surprisingly, the king. On top of entertaining people in a lot of courts, they were also known to mock authority and expose unjustified policies through their comedy acts. They were able to speak the truth and they were able to speak their minds in ways others only wish they could. All of it being discussed through this comedy act of theirs. Jesters would go up to the king, make a joke about how his mother slept with her brother, and walk out of the courtroom without the king handing out tickets to his public beheading. This goofy fool persona of theirs was just an act. Many jesters were highly intelligent and politically savvy. Some of them, even being diplomats in disguise, they used humor to manipulate alliances and people to do their favours. Back in those days, you have to understand, everybody was backstabbing everybody. Like you come up to your wife cheating on you, only to realize you're being physically stabbed in the back by a knife by someone else, and that person stabbing your wife is watching his wife getting cheated on. There was a lot of mistrust in the air. The kings of that time couldn't trust their nobles, so when it came to delivering sensitive or bad news between kingdoms, they would send the jesters to do it. And this was horrible, because often the kingdom that the jester is delivering the message to wouldn't like what the message was saying, so they would take out the anger on the jesters themselves, killing them in cold blood. Hell, even the kings of their own kingdoms would slime them out if they thought the jokes they were making crossed the line. So while the everyman laughed and the children clapped, the jesters were constantly dancing on Blade's edge. This duality between comedy and melancholy didn't just disappear over the years. It just evolved into the red nose, the painted smile, and the floppy shoes. Moving forward a bit, oh look, it's our old friend. Let's say hello again. His name is Joseph Grimaldi, and he's the man responsible for defining what a clown is. The white face, the red cheeks, the lips. He built the foundation for how a clown looks like, which withstood the test of time, even up to present. Joseph Grimaldi was a superstar. He was a full-blown celebrity. I'm sure the 1800 paparazzis were constantly harassing this man for the newspapers. He was really good at pantomime, a theoretical form that combines music, dance, and acting. He was also known for his energetic physical comedy like jumping and tumbling alongside his famous slapstick routines. He didn't partake any shows, he was the show. People were coming to see him. He was adored and loved by many because for a few hours, he gave them joy and he gave them a reason to forget about their problems. The tragic irony, being the one person who needed to see a Joseph Grimaldi show the most, was Joseph Grimaldi himself. People often say you have to play with the cards that has been dealt to you. Whoever the shuffler was that gave those cards to Grimaldi, you deserve to be fired. He grew up with an abusive father that would use him as a prop on stage, whipping him and throwing Grimaldi across stages. Luckily for Grimaldi, his abusive father died when he was very young. Unluckily for Grimaldi, he was 9 years old young, and he was unwillingly given the responsibility of being his family's breadwinner. A 9-year-old boy. The weight of his family's survival was on his shoulders, so Grimaldi did what any other person would do. He grinded, and he worked hard, but he worked too hard because he performed with so much energy that his body started to give out. Crippling other riders, he was in constant pain, and by his 40s, he was physically disabled. Life never ever stopped raining for Grimaldi. His first wife died during childbirth, and his only son died before him at the age of 30. By the end of his life, he was depressed, broke, and in constant pain. I am Grimaldi, but I make you laugh at night. A quote from Grimaldi which summarizes his entire life. This is the man. This is the man we call the father of clowning. Clowns were never just about fun, they were always a contradiction, and all the clowns that preceded Grimaldi would only further prove the testament. Moving up the timeline to the next major clown figure, we got John Gaspard Deburau. He was a Frenchman living in the 1800s. But that wasn't the most evil thing about him. Deburau was a French mime actor, best known for characterizing the character Pierrot. Pierrot was a comedic stock character, but Deburau transformed him into a symbol of tragic beauty, laying the foundation of modern mimes. His mime performances were amazing. He was able to perform and express entire emotional arcs, making audiences cry without even saying a word. He would be in white-faced paint, black eyebrows and red lips, and would have this blank expression look as he performed. With the makeup, without the makeup, he was often recognized in the streets of Paris. He was really famous. The 1800 paparazzis were relentless on both Grimaldi and Deburau. Similarly as well, where Grimaldi was suffering from depression, Deburau had his own sets of demons he was battling. 1836, Deburau was walking down the street. A kid was walking down the street. The kid walks up to Deburau and shouts insults at him. Now, Deburau has two options. He could walk up to the kid and scold him for his bad manners, or he could just ignore it and walk away, like every other normal functioning member of society would. Deburau chose option 3. He walked up to the kid and killed him with his cane. A lot of people think of another man when you ask them who the first known recorded clown serial killer is, but it was probably Deburau. It's safe to say this man wasn't entirely there. He had to be going through something for him to be doing all that. Or maybe he was just plain evil. Either way, another historic clown figure just ending up being a very troubled man underneath all that face paint. And if we're talking about troubled men underneath all that face paint, then we have to talk about the most troubled men underneath the most face paint. This is what I and many others consider the no turning back moment for clowns. Clowns were cheerful, but they always felt like they had a dark shadow looming behind them. After what Pogo the Clown did, the shadow became all anyone could ever see. Pogo the Clown was described as charismatic, generous, outgoing. He was well liked in his community, a pillar for society. He was known for hosting neighborhood parties and barbecues at his crib. That was Pogo the Clown. When the makeup came off though, he was John Wayne Gacey. And John Wayne Gacey, as you probably already know, was a murderer who killed 35 young men and boys throughout the 1970s, which at that time was the most confirmed victims ever attributed to a single killer in US history. This case is infamous, everybody knows this, but the one thing I want to point out was Gacey's childhood. Like Grimaldi, Gacey didn't have the best upbringing growing up. His father was an alcoholic, physically abusing him all the time. He was demeaning and never wasted an opportunity to let him know he was useless. Things got bad. I mean, when his son was sick physically, not being able to move from the hospital bed, he was accused of lying. The verbal abuse was harsh, but every single thing culminated with a family friend inappropriately assaulting Gacey throughout one of the years. Absolutely nothing excuses what Gacey does in the future, but by taking a glimpse at his past, we can see the seeds sown that will eventually grow into the thing he became. And what he became was a man who destroyed a lot of lives, the clown community included. Not only did he kill 33 people, but he was a clown? Like, this is the guy we're supposed to trust our kids with. Parents all around the world didn't want to risk it just for a few moments of laughter. So the parents all around the world stopped hiring clowns. And the clowns all over the world found it way more difficult to keep doing what they love. You would think that Gacey chose being a clown because he could be around kids, right? Which, I ain't gonna lie, probably true. But he actually really liked clowning. In one of the interviews he did from prison, he explained how once he got into the clown makeup, he regressed into his childhood and that he found it relaxing. A man who committed unspeakable acts of violence, enjoying something as light-hearted as clowning. In a way, that is creepy, because it's like the two polar opposite things on the spectrum coming together. If I put this guy, and this guy, and this guy in a room, and I asked you, who went around killing kittens? You'd probably say this guy, right? But it would be very scary and shocking if he was the baby, because they aren't supposed to do that. Clowns already had a dark history. Gacey didn't invent the trope, but he sure as hell put a massive spotlight on the dual nature of clowns. And if I told you that people weren't inspired by it, I would be lying. The world pre-Gacey and post-Gacey was different. All of a sudden, we kept seeing more and more of this scary horror clown trope coming about. Poltergeist, where little boy's clown doll comes to life to drag him under the bed. Stephen King's It, where a demon in clown face paint goes around terrorizing other children. Killer clowns from outer space, where there were killer clowns from outer space. Clown House, Saw, Joker, to a certain extent. The damage had already been done, but it wasn't just filmmakers. I guess a light bulb turned on simultaneously in people's heads across the world, because we kept seeing more and more of them in real life as well. 1988, children were making reports about a sinister clown offering rides in a red truck. 1991, people started seeing random ass clowns in their backyards looking through their windows. 1992, one clown decided to go rogue and attempted to kidnap a little girl. Robbers even started wearing clown outfits to go to rob banks. And who could forget whatever the hell happened in 2016? It feels like a fever dream, right? But I remember the Great Clown Panic that happened in 2016. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there was an abundance of clown sightings that just came out about. And it all started from this photo right here. A lot of very reliable news outlets like Fox News and all of them reported on this photo. Because who doesn't like a mysterious clown killer on the loose? Maybe some of them knew the truth, maybe they didn't. But this photo right here was just a marketing stunt done for a short film called Gags. What came after though was real. Kinda. Killer clowns were on the loose and they were everywhere. The news, the alleyways, the forums, your couple therapy sessions because Martha took the kids and she refused to let you see them on the weekends unless you're on good behavior. They were there as well. The rumor that we all believe was that there was an underground clown called Assault and that they were worldwide. It didn't matter which part of the world you were in, they had eyes on you. The most scariest part of this situation was, yes, that. But also we didn't really know what the clowns wanted from us. They would chase you down, they would stand there, they would loiter around like they didn't have a unified goal to accomplish. And that's mainly because they didn't have a unified goal to accomplish. There was no underground clown cult. This wasn't a unified attack. Most of these clowns were random people who used this chance to get famous or get recognition. There were some actual real attacks, don't get me wrong, but it was random and it was clear as day that these clown sightings were done each with their individual motivations. At the end of the day though, it doesn't really matter if it was individual or not. The damage had already been done. Remember, clowns didn't get darker over the years, but how we perceive them has. And this sucks, because there are a lot of people out there who are passionate about their craft and passionate about making people have a good time, but they can't, because they are being put in a box and being labeled scary. This video is about the duality of clowns. Duality. Yes, they are dark. Yes, they can be scary, but they make people laugh. They make people cry. Tears of joy. They have the power to make people forget about their problems, and a lot of people don't know that because most people have never experienced a good clown. A good clown can make you feel a whole range of emotions. Not only can they make you laugh, but they can make you curious, they can make you nostalgic, they can pull out the kind of joy that you forgot even existed, the kind of joy you haven't felt since you were a kid. There have even been studies showing the actual positive impacts that real clowns can have on sick children. An Italian study for one, published on December of 2011, showed that children hospitalized for respiratory illnesses got better faster playing therapeutic clowns. It's sad to hear all of this knowing that the times are different now, and that the children of today are only being exposed to the scary horror clown trope. In this day and age, we are kind of stuck in this weird cycle of sorts, where there is a lot of representation for the scary horror clown trope, which breeds more people that fears clowns, and the more people that fears clowns, the more representation of scary horror clowns we're gonna get. The art of clowning is fading, simply put, but it will never ever truly diminish. It's hard to find, but there are a lot of good clowns out there keeping the art alive. There are even clown colleges that people are still actively enrolling to. At the end of the day though, like for the second time, clowning is about communicating, not concealing, and their makeup should be reflective of that. It should be reflective of the individual's emotions, not the mask behind it like some of the clowns of the past did. And as long as there are clowns out there who are warm, sympathetic people with and without the makeup on, then I believe the art of clowning will never ever truly fade out. Huge, massive shout out to everybody who got me to 63 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. As soon as you get to 65, I'll finally get a proper outro. As of right now though, like present time, I'm thinking we do a